When a little girl with a baby asked, "Can you save us?" A cowboy's heartfelt journey unfolds. The market was buzzing that Saturday, a typical Midwestern day's energy buzzing through the air like a summer storm. Cornfields rolled in the background, their bright green stalks dancing under the wide, endless sky. Among the bustle, Jake, rugged and humble, walked through the crowd with both pride and worry etched on his face. He had dreams of expansion, but reality clung to him like dust on his boots. His heart sank a little more with every purchase he watched families make, while he and his little farm barely scraped by. Then, he saw her. A tiny figure stood on the edge of the crowd, clutching a frayed baby doll with a face that looked as worn as the fabric it wore. Her sunken eyes were wide, brimming with unshed tears. As Jake approached, his heart twisted. "Can you save us?" she asked, her voice trembling like a leaf in the wind. For a moment, everything else faded. The vibrant colors of the market, the laughter and chatter, fell silent around them. The little girl, Emma, looked up at him with such hope, such need, that it felt like those words reached into the very core of him. He felt tears pricking the corners of his own eyes, and he knelt down as the weight of her vulnerability hit him square in the chest. "I'll do my best, darlin'," he said, and those words felt bigger than any promise he ever made. Refusing to back down, Jake learned that Emma's family was teetering on the edge of survival since her mother fell ill. They were days away from losing their home, and Emma, with her baby doll, was simply crying out for help. That evening, as he mulled the unexpected encounter, something stirred deep within his heart, a call to rally his neighbors. The next day, Jake gathered his fellow townsfolk in the dusty town square. "Listen," he began, his voice carrying through the crowd. "This little girl and her family need us. We may be struggling, but together, we're mighty." He shared stories of unity, of compassion, touches of old American spirit kindled in the hearts of those who listened. However, nods turned to whispers, skepticism clouding the buzz of expectation. The wealthier folks scoffed. "We have our own problems, Jake," someone said dismissively, their privilege casting a long shadow over the gathering. Yet Jake pressed on, passionate and fierce. Just when it seemed camaraderie was beginning to take root, nature unleashed its fury. A cloudburst soaked the dry earth, turning paths into rivers and tearing through the town like a runaway train. Rain pelted roofs, deepening fear in every heart like a darkened sky. Buildings trembled, their foundations cracking much like the community Jake had worked so hard to gather. As the storm raged outside, so too did the turmoil within him. Doubt raced like lightning through his mind. Would his attempts to unite them hold when everything was crashing down around them? He watched Emma's doll float away, its fabric soaked and ruined, a reflection of the fragility in their fight for hope. Standing alone in the wreckage of dreams, he felt a deep responsibility not only for Emma but for a community that had been ripped apart as harshly as the storm had torn through their homes. With dust settling, the devastation revealed a truth he couldn't ignore, and as he looked to the scattered faces around him, questions raced through his mind. Would their shared struggles pull them together, or deepen the divides of society that had plagued them? Jake clenched his fists, vowing to fight for a new dawn. The echo of a child's hope shone like a beacon. What would happen next? Would love and courage be enough to inspire a community to rise together? The answer lay just beyond the horizon, waiting to be chased. The storm finally passed, leaving the town cloaked in silence, punctuated only by the distant sound of dripping water. The once vibrant market square now lay soaked and dulled, remnants of Jake's gathering scattered beneath puddles like the dreams that had started to crumble. But amidst the wreckage, a flicker of determination ignited within him. Jake took a deep breath, steeling himself against the unease that clutched at his heart. This wasn't just about Emma anymore, it was about every soul who called this place home. They were in this together, whether they wanted to admit it or not. He stood taller, letting the damp air fill his lungs. Gathering the few who remained, those who had braved the storm, curiosity overtaking caution, Jake dared to speak again. "Our town is hurting. But if we can band together, we can help Emma's family and ourselves." A nearby farmer, old Mr. Thompson, stepped forward, his face weathered, lines cutting deep like the furrows in his fields. "We've always weathered storms, Jake," he said, his voice rasping like the wind. "But we also need food. We can barely feed our own families." Nods of agreement rippled through their small group. Jake understood the truth in Thompson's words. For all their dreams and hopes, they all faced a similar peril. But somewhere, that hope needed to sprout first. "Then let us figure this out," Jake said, a fire igniting in his chest. "If we all do our part, we can organize food drives, raise funds, whatever it takes to keep the lights on in this town. We can turn this storm into a blessing if we work together." Some eyes widened, uncertain. Others filled with timid enthusiasm. Jake felt his heart race, the first real glint of hope shimmered in the unease. He began pacing, his enthusiasm contagious. "I'll reach out to my buddies at the ranch for help and supplies. We can host barn dances, bake sales. Let us make it a community effort, everything from food to clothes. Emma's family won't be the only ones fed, we'll start feeding each other." A murmur spread through the crowd, a ripple of agreement beginning to grow into something larger. As Jake rallied their spirits with tales of past victories and community strength, he could see the glimmers of belief reigniting in their eyes. Slowly, people came forward, sharing ideas, showing solidarity with one another. But a nagging thought lingered at the back of Jake's mind. Would those who could afford to help actually step up? Would their hesitance hold back a tide of change if they turned away when it mattered most? Their hesitation gnawed at his resolve. That night, under a sky washed clean, Jake lay awake, staring at the stars, contemplating the battles yet to come. The weight of Emma's small question echoed in his thoughts. Could he really save them? Would he be able to bring together a community that had forgotten how to care? Morning light found him restless, eager to push forward. He needed to convince not just the reluctant but also the wealthy who turned up their noses. Their pride had choked off neighbors' generosity for too long. They had the means and the power, but how to make them see? As the first rays of sunlight peeked over the horizon, illuminating the path ahead, Jake decided something had to change. He had to face not only the storm outside but also the hardened hearts within his town. The journey hinged on reaching them. Time slipped down the road, and with it came a newfound resolve. Jake gathered his thoughts, ready to step back into the gathering storm, this time with purpose. Would he find strength in unity, or would he find himself alone against the tide? With every step, a question loomed. Could he embrace the challenge of the people who thought they had lost everything, or would he bow to the fear that silenced their voices? The answer lay just beyond the next dawn, waiting for him to chase it down. The next morning, the sun climbed higher, casting a warm glow over the town and washing away the remnants of rain. Jake stood at the edge of the market square, mentally preparing himself for the day ahead. He could see the determination in the faces of the townsfolk as they began to drift back out, swept up in the promise of a new purpose. But he knew the real test lay ahead. After a quick breakfast, he grabbed a few supplies: paper, pens, and an old bulletin board from the barn, and set up a small table right in the heart of the market. He wanted to make an announcement, to welcome anyone willing to lend a hand. With every step toward the gathering crowd, he felt his heart quicken. Would this be the moment they finally rallied together? As he approached, he noticed Emma's parents standing slightly apart from the others. They looked lost, their faces drawn, shadows lingering in their eyes like the storm clouds of the past day. Suddenly, the reality of their loss hit him like a wave. He cleared his throat and called out, "All right, everyone. We need to brainstorm ideas to help Emma's family and our own. Let us make this town strong again." A few voices chimed in with tentative suggestions: community dinners, food donation drives, maybe even a bake-off. Jake's voice rose above the chatter, pouring out his passion. "We've faced hard times before. Remember the drought? Remember how we came together to help each other? We can do it again. We just have to believe." He felt a ripple of enthusiasm spreading, but then saw a familiar face step forward. It was Derek, the town's wealthiest landowner, arms crossed, brows furrowed. "You know, Jake, charity isn't exactly how you solve problems. It takes more than just handouts." The air grew thick with tension. Jake's stomach clenched. This wasn't the time to back down. He took a deep breath, steadying himself against the rising doubt. "Derek, it's not about handouts. It's about building a future where we can all share in the work and rewards. We all take pride in what we offer. Let us build something together." Derek's gaze locked onto Jake's for a heartbeat that felt like a lifetime. Then, he shifted his stance, somewhat reluctantly, but there was something in his eyes, a flicker of understanding. Before anyone could speak, a small voice broke through. "But what if nobody wants to help?" It was Emma's little sister, a mere shadow of a girl, standing next to her parents. Her face was smeared with dirt, her eyes wide and worried. The silence hit like a brick. Jake crouched down to her level, his heart aching. "You know what? I think they do. It's just hidden under a lot of fears. But if we can show them what it means to stand together, they will come around. People care, Emma's family cares, and I promise we can change things." The murmurs of the crowd began to swell once again, the weight of the conversation lifting slightly. More people stepped forward, sharing their own struggles and their hopes to give back. A gentle woman from the back called out, "I can sew blankets. I have baskets for food donations. Let us start today." Jake's heart soared. As the crowd buzzed with newfound energy, ideas flowed like water, and a plan started to take shape. Barn dances, community picnics, he could feel each suggestion knitting them closer, intertwining their fates, building resilience. But then, just as he felt the momentum building, he caught Derek's skeptical glance again. A gravity pulled on the moment as he considered how some walls were still standing firm, even amidst the rising tide of solidarity. Had they truly turned that corner? Jake raised his voice over the crowd. "We need volunteers, and I'm counting on all of you. But let us not forget our town's pride. We have to involve those who shut themselves off. The more we reach out, the stronger we become." As he spoke, adrenaline surged. Could he keep propelling their spirit forward, or would the doubts gather like another storm ready to crash down? With the sun shining, illuminating their scattered hopes, Jake knew he would have to confront Derek once more. Would the wealthy landowner finally join the cause, or turn a blind eye, leaving another crack in their fragile unity? Jake took a step back, heart pounding, eager yet anxious. He felt the urgency, hanging in the air. It was time for his next move: how to light a fire in the hearts of those sitting on the fence. Would he be able to break through the hesitation and bridge the divide between the town and its wealthier heart? The crowd continued to buzz with fervor, but Jake felt a tugging urgency in his chest. There were moments that defined a person's efforts, that drew out the strength buried deep inside them. This was one of those moments. He was determined, not just for the townsfolk and for Emma's family, but for the heart of their community, the very essence that held them all together. "All right, let us get some structure around these great ideas. Who's willing to take the lead on organizing the food drive?" he called out, his voice rising above the excitement. A couple of hands shot up. Ellen, the local baker, beamed with enthusiasm. "I can coordinate the sorting and distribution," she declared. Jake smiled, grateful for the support. "Awesome, Ellen. We'll follow your lead." He scanned the crowd, searching for Derek, but the landowner had pulled back, his expression unreadable. Jake's heart sank. Was Derek really going to keep sitting on the sidelines? At that moment, a soft tug on his pant leg drew his attention down. It was Emma's little sister, still clutching her frayed stuffed bunny. Her big eyes regarded him with both hope and fear, the weight of her family's grief resting heavily on her tiny shoulders. "Will you really help us, Mr. Jake?" she whispered, her voice barely breaking through the surrounding chatter. His heart twisted. Here was a child, looking to him as if he held the world in his hands. Jake knelt down, his perspective shifted, and he gathered every ounce of warmth he could muster. I promise, we're all going to help. Everyone here, they care. We just need to show them how. It starts with believing, just like you believe, he said, fighting back a lump in his throat. With a determined nod, she asked, but how? How do we make them believe? He thought for a moment, inspiration blooming. We show them with actions, small steps. If we start doing good together, even the hardest hearts will soften. As he spoke, he noticed Derek again, still watching, his expression still clouded. Maybe that was where the real challenge lay. Jake stood, calling out again. All right, everyone. Let us not forget the cleanup we mentioned. I need a team to help with that too. Who can pick up old leaves and trash around town? More hands went up. Jake guided their energy toward tasks that seemed small but were powerful in making an impact. The love for each other in their community was growing like wildflowers in a field. But as the sun began to dip lower in the sky, the excitement began to dwindle. The reality that they would need to tackle bigger issues loomed ahead like an impending storm. Jake's eyes turned back to Derek, who ran a hand through his hair, looking more conflicted than ever. Derek, how about it? Will you help organize something? Your ideas could really drive this home, Jake called across the square, breaking the tension. Derek straightened up, surprisingly. For a moment, the whole crowd fell silent. The sun set behind him, casting his shadow long against the ground. Jacob held his breath, waiting. Would Derek step forward and join them, or would he retreat back to his isolated world of doubts? It was a pivotal moment. Jake could feel the weight of the decision hanging in the air, and everyone was holding their breath, waiting to know if this wealthy landowner had the willingness to unite with them. Derek finally opened his mouth, but instead of words, a passing breeze whipped through, silencing all as they awaited what came next. Would hope be rekindled, or would they face yet another setback? Derek's lips parted, a breath hanging like a fragile thread in the air. Jake felt a rush of hope mixed with anxiety. He could see the gears turning in Derek's mind, the conflict written across his face, shifting from resolve to doubt and back again. The crowd leaned in, a living tapestry of anticipation woven with heartbeats. But then, Derek looked away, his gaze trailing off into the distance. I don't know if I can, he finally said, his voice barely audible. The weight of his words hung like a dark cloud over the gathering. A murmur rippled through the crowd, disappointment settling in like a cold fog. Jake felt it, thick and suffocating. He needed to do something, anything. Derek, look around. These folks are here because they believe in something bigger than themselves, Jake urged, stepping closer. Derek's eyes darted around, noticing the eager faces, bold with determination despite the lingering shadows of doubt. Then why don't they just do it themselves? Derek snapped, betraying a deep-seated weariness. Jake took a breath, his heart pounding in his chest. Because sometimes it's hard, he replied, steadying his voice. Sometimes we need someone to guide us. Someone with the resources to make a difference. A flicker of something danced briefly in Derek's eyes, but it was gone before Jake could hold on to it. Only silence echoed in its place as parents exchanged worried glances, children fidgeted, and even Ellen's enthusiasm dimmed. But the little girl, holding tight to her stuffed bunny, broke through the heavy air. Mr. Jake believes. She exclaimed, pointing a tiny finger at him. And he's going to help us. Her voice rang out, a high note of innocence piercing the tension. Jake's heart swelled with a fierce protectiveness. He knelt down beside her. That's right. We will help each other. He turned to the crowd. But we can't do it alone. We need Derek. He knows what resources we need, he can help us get them. The eyes of the townsfolk pressed upon Derek, fervent hope shining through their worry. We're just people trying to help, Jake added gently. We don't have to face this alone. You've got the strength of a community behind you. This time, a deeper sigh escaped Derek. But something shifted, a subtle softening of his shoulders. Jake could see it, a glimmer of consideration behind his defenses. Okay, all right, Derek finally said, his voice stronger but tinged with uncertainty. I'll help. A ripple of gasps flared across the crowd, breaths catching in unison as hope blossomed anew. Really? Jake's voice cracked with disbelief. Yes, really. Derek's eyes softened a fraction, locking with Jake's. But I need help too. I can't do it alone. Jake grinned wide, the weight of despair lifting. We're here to stand with you, every step of the way, he assured, sensing the surge of unity that began to ripple outwards. As cheers erupted, an electric energy ignited the square. People clapped, children jumped, and laughter broke the tension like sunlight through clouds. This was no longer just about the food drive or cleaning up their town, it became a moment of collective strength, a chance to show what they could accomplish together. Yet, even amidst the joy, Jake felt the pulse of something larger brewing. He noticed the darkened horizon and felt the winds shift. The world outside this square still loomed with challenges less tangible, more menacing. He turned to the little girl, her bunny still cradled against her heart. Thank you for believing, he whispered, squeezing her tiny hand. She smiled, a spark of fierce determination in her innocent gaze. Can we save them, Mr. Jake? She asked, her innocent worry tinged with sincere hope. Jake paused. Deep down, he felt the enormity of the question pressing at his chest. We'll try our very best, he replied, his heart beating as though it knew the road ahead was filled with rocky decisions. And from behind him, Derek's voice boomed with authority, all right, let us get organized. But even as the crowd erupted in excitement again, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. What lay ahead was uncharted territory, the road to recovery with rough edges and hidden dangers. And Jake couldn't help but wonder would the unity they found survive when the true test arrived. With the spark of hope igniting the crowd, Derek moved with purpose, introducing ideas and suggestions that took the hopes of the townsfolk from dreams to actionable plans. He turned into a man transformed. The anxious weariness that had clouded his face moments before was replaced with an urgency that seemed to catch fire in those gathered. Assemble a team, he urged, pointing. Everyone has a skill. We'll need volunteers to get the supplies, others to rally our neighbors and tap into local businesses. Let us split into groups. We can do this. A sense of agency coursed through the crowd like a rushing river, nourished by Derek's commanding presence. People jumped into action, discussing roles among themselves, curiosity and eagerness brightening their expressions. Each person felt flat and hidden a moment ago, suddenly found purpose, their excitement echoing against the old buildings lining the square. Jake stepped back, watching the transformation unfold. He couldn't help but smile, feeling an odd pride glow in his chest. The crowd was alive, a symphony of voices and laughter interlaced with plans and exchanges. For every worry expressed, someone else had a solution. It felt like magic, the kind of moment where a community finally banded together, shedding their past burdens. But in the midst of that buzzing energy, the weight of responsibility loomed silent over Jake. He turned his attention back to the little girl, hoping to find comfort in her gentle encouragement, only to watch her gaze shift away. Her bunny hung loosely, and she looked beyond the crowds, her small brow furrowing. What's wrong? He asked, kneeling to meet her eye to eye. Mr. Jake? She asked slowly, her innocence mixing with a more profound realization. What if they don't have enough? What if what we build breaks again? Jake's heart sank. Her words struck deep, bubbling to the surface doubts he had tried to shove aside. I don't know, he whispered, looking past her to the vibrant crowd. But every step we take, it brings us closer. We have to believe that it will make a difference. We have to try. She studied his face, a flash of determination glimmering in her eyes. Okay. Then I'll try too, she asserted, her little voice firm, her spirit unyielding. Suddenly, a commotion broke through the excitement. The older townsfolk pulled together to address the newest challenge, raising enough funds to purchase the resources they needed. Ellen stepped forward, her voice ringing clear, "Let us have a bake sale. We can do it this Saturday. We'll gather all our best recipes." The crowd erupted in spirited chatter. This was a call to action. Ideas blossomed and spread. Someone suggested a car wash. Another offered to donate their skill with carpentry to build something for the community. But in Jake's chest, doubt wormed its way back. He felt himself growing tethered to the responsibilities ahead, not only of uniting the community but also confronting the looming shadow of potential failure. Derek caught his eye across the crowd, his expression firm, a silent pact forming. They were in this together. But what if it wouldn't be enough to save the community from itself? As laughter erupting from nearby melded with the hustle of preparation, Jake felt turbulence rising in his thoughts. "Mr. Jake." The little girl's voice perked again, reminding him she was still there, and hopeful. "It's gonna be amazing, isn't it?" With a shaky exhale, he plastered a smile onto his face. "Absolutely. We're going to do great things." Yet, as the sun began to dip lower in the sky, painting the horizon with hues of orange and purple, he couldn't ignore the whisper of unsettlement swelling within him. They were taking steps forward, but with each footfall, the looming challenges beyond the town's borders seemed to breathe heavier, and Jake couldn't shake the feeling that a storm was brewing not far from their hopeful fire. What was lurking beyond those edges of their small community? And would it consume all they had built before they even had the chance to try? As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the town square, the excitement began to transition into tangible action. Derek organized teams, assigning each a task, his voice steady and inspiring. Jake watched as the townspeople transformed from everyday folks into dedicated community crusaders. It was uplifting, yet Jake felt the weight of every unasked question pressing against his chest. "Mr. Jake." The little girl with the bunny suddenly tugged at his sleeve again, wide-eyed and insistent. "Are you gonna help, too?" "Of course," he said, ruffling her hair, though uncertainty gnawed at him. "I'll be right here, helping however I can." Behind his smile, fear flickered, a fear of letting her down, of letting everyone down. As volunteers fanned out, bands of laughter and chatter filled the air, mixing with the late afternoon breeze. Jake stepped forward, feeling the pull of duty. He joined Derek, who was now rallying a group near the old community center, an emblem of the town's past. "Jake." Derek beckoned, eyes bright. "You can help us rally the nearby businesses. We need supplies, but we also need moral support. They have to believe in this, too." "Right." Jake nodded hesitantly. He was better with tools than sales pitches. But there was that small voice of the girl echoing in his mind. He had to try. "Let us split up and meet back here in an hour," Derek suggested, glancing around. The urgency in the air sparked something inside Jake, although the heaviness of responsibility still lingered like an unwanted fog. As he wandered through town, Jake approached the familiar storefronts. Each one held memories of childhood spent parking his bike outside the corner store, dreaming of freedom and adventure. Now, those streets felt different. They felt heavy with responsibility as he approached Mrs. Thompson's bakery. She was a fixture of the town, her warm smile spreading joy through the air like the aroma of her famously sweet cinnamon rolls. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Thompson." Jake greeted her, his voice earnest. "We're planning a bake sale this Saturday to help gather funds for the community center." "Oh, Jake!" she exclaimed, her hands full of flour-dusted dough. "That's absolutely wonderful. I'll bake double the usual order, just let me know how many we need." Relief washed over him. Each small conversation like this fueled his hope. From the bakery to the hardware store, signs of support began to trickle in. But as the sun sank even lower, painting everything in shades of twilight, doubt re-entered the edges of his mind. What if it wasn't enough? What if those distant shadows loomed larger than the hope igniting the townsfolk? Just then, his thoughts were splintered by laughter erupting nearby. He turned, finding the little girl playing with other children, her bunny now tightly clutched under her arm. For a moment, he watched her bounce in joy, and something softened within him. "You can do it, Mr. Jake." She called over her shoulder, voice bright, as if she could sense the battles waging in his heart. In that small moment, Jake felt a glimmer of clarity. It wasn't just about supplies or plans, it was about heart. It was about believing that every effort, no matter how small, connected them. But even as he turned to join the laughter, he felt a familiar unease. As night crept in and the stars began to flicker overhead, a chill found its way into the air, and Jake couldn't ignore the feeling that something darker awaited beyond the warmth of their shared dreams. What storm was brewing out there, and how would it threaten the fragile unity they were trying to build? The questions loomed, and he felt more uncertain than ever. With each step closer to the laughter, he couldn't help but wonder if the light they were starting to kindle could withstand whatever challenge lay ahead. Would they be prepared for the shadows lurking just outside their hopeful glow? As laughter echoed through the square, Jake's heart beat a little steadier. He found himself smiling as children played tag, their innocent excitement painting a vivid contrast against the encroaching darkness. Each giggle acted like a balm, soothing his anxiety as he approached the little girl with the bunny. "Looks like you've made some friends," he said, crouching down to her level. "Yeah." She beamed, her eyes sparkling like the first stars overhead. "We're gonna make the biggest cake for the bake sale." Her enthusiasm was contagious. Jake felt a surge of purpose. "Then I'll help you get the ingredients. Let's make sure it's extra special." Together, they set off towards the bakery, the little girl babbling about sprinkles and frosting, her bunny bouncing along in her arms. For Jake, that brief moment of connection reminded him that change was often born from the sweetness of shared dreams. Once they reached Mrs. Thompson's bakery, the cozy warmth enveloped them. The sweet aroma of fresh baked goods filled the air, and Jake took a deep breath, letting it ease his worries. Mrs. Thompson was busy at the counter, expertly rolling dough, but she paused to greet the girl with a soft smile. "Hello again. Are you ready to help bake a cake?" "Yes, Mrs. Thompson," the girl exclaimed, clapping her hands. "With lots of sprinkles." Jake watched as Mrs. Thompson laughed and filled a bowl with assorted ingredients. "How about this? If you help me mix the batter, I'll add extra sprinkles just for you." The little girl's joy was a beacon. Jake thought about how this was what they were fighting for, a community full of these moments. But what would happen if the storm he sensed ripped through their lives? With moments spent at the bakery, the shadows felt a bit lighter. As they left, the little girl skipped, her laughter trailing behind her like a melody. Jake decided to venture further, determined to gather more support before Derek called them back. He headed toward the florist next, where colorful flowers spilled from their pots like a vibrant painting. There, he found Mrs. Reed arranging a bouquet. She always knew everyone's name and was a pillar of the community. "Mrs. Reed," he called, stepping inside. "I'm collecting donations for the community center. We're having a bake sale this Saturday." Her eyes lit up. "A bake sale? That sounds lovely. I can donate flowers for the event. They'll attract customers like bees to honey." A smile broke out on Jake's face as he watched her enthusiasm. "That would be amazing, thank you." The sense of hope was building, the spark moving through him. But when he left the shop, he couldn't shake the feeling that this sense of unity might not last. The chill in the air was growing, and with it, shadows crept closer. He returned to the square, where he found Derek surrounded by people, sharing updates and ideas. "Jake!" Derek called out as he spotted him. "How did it go?" With excitement bubbling inside, Jake relayed the good news, but Derek's gaze was over Jake's shoulder, concerned. "Look," Derek interjected quietly, his voice keen. "Do you see that group gathering at the edge of the square? Jake turned, noticing a few unfamiliar faces whispering and pointing at them. The stark contrasts of unity and division felt painfully sharp. "What is going on?" Jake asked, his stomach clenching. "I don't know," Derek replied, brow furrowing. "But I have a feeling they're not just here for the bake sale." Jake's heart raced. Something was brewing that could threaten everything they had built. Would they stand their ground against whatever storm was coming? Or would the flicker of hope they created extinguish under the weight of the unknown threat slowly closing in on them? Jake's breath caught as he scanned the group gathering at the edge of the square. They moved subtly, a dissonant note in the otherwise cheerful atmosphere. His stomach churned. These weren't just curious onlookers, their tense whispers exchanged beneath the flicker of fairy lights felt heavy with intent. Derek stepped closer, his shoulders taut. "They look like trouble," he muttered. "We can't let them distract us. Focus on the bake sale, people are relying on us." Jake nodded but couldn't shake the sense of foreboding, a weight settling over his heart. Just then, the little girl from the bakery appeared beside him again, wide-eyed and holding her bunny tightly as if the fluffy creature could shield her from the darkness. "Mr. Jake, are we going to make the biggest cake?" Her innocent excitement pierced through the rising tension. He forced a smile, kneeling to meet her gaze. "Absolutely. We're going to make it great." Derek clapped a hand on Jake's shoulder. "Let us not lose sight of our goal. Besides cake, we need to unite everyone here, make them feel safe and welcome." As the sun dipped lower, casting longer shadows across the square, Jake felt that unease coil tighter. He glanced back at the group, now discussing animatedly among themselves. The whispers escalated, and he could make out fragments words like enforce, change, the way forward. A knot tightened in his stomach. "We can't let this intimidate us," Jake said, determination rising as he stood. He would not allow fear to extinguish the hope kindled that day. With a strong heave of breath, Jake strode back towards the makeshift center where people were bustling about, laughing and preparing for the bake sale. "Everyone!" he called, raising his voice to carry over the chatter. "I need your help. We're not just baking for ourselves. This is for our community. We need to show unity, to let everyone out there know we stand for each other." Eyes turned to him, curious and concerned, hope flickering alongside fear. Slowly, hands came together, first a few claps, then an entire swell as the crowd began to cheer. Jake felt warmth and strength swell in that moment. This was more than just a bake sale, it was a chance to affirm their bond, to defy those who wished to sow division. But just as the pulse of positivity surged through them, he caught movement in the corner of his eye. The group at the edge of the square was breaking apart, advancing toward them like a black cloud ready to burst. The cheer faltered, whispers turned to murmurs of fear. Jake's heart raced again as he met Derek's gaze. "What do we do?" he whispered, panic creeping in. Before Derek could respond, a loud voice rang out from the approaching group. "You think your little bake sale can save this town? We need real change." The crowd grew restless, the laughter fading, and Jake felt the wall of uncertainty closing in. "Stay together," he called out, trying to coax strength from the unity they had found just moments before. As the tension escalated, Jake's thoughts flashed back to that little girl with her bunny. He remembered her laughter, her unabashed joy. "If we can stay united, maybe we can weather this storm," he thought, clenching his fists. But would their bond be enough? Would they stand firm against the tide of dissent heading their way? The flicker of hope felt fragile amidst the gathering storm. His heart was racing, but he knew one thing: something had to be done, and soon. Jake felt the atmosphere shift like a current pulling him under. The vibrant laughter and determination that had filled the town square melted into tension thick as the clouds overhead. The voices from the approaching group, with their insistence on real change, sharpened the lines on many faces. Fear crept into the crowd, confusion shifting into worry. "Everyone, stay calm," he called, raising his voice over the swell of anxiety. We're here for each other. This bake sale isn't just about pastries, it's about standing solid as a community. The words felt heavy in his mouth, a defiance stitched between panic and hope. Derek stepped beside him, brow furrowed with uncertainty but ready to shoulder the burden. No one wants division today, he emphasized, his voice steady, drawing attention. We're uniting to support one another, not tear down what we're building. But as the antagonistic group came closer, their murmurings grew louder, and snippets of hostility began surfacing. You can't just solve everything with sweets. One voice pierced the air, dripping with derision. Jake stepped further into the fray, tightening his grip on his resolve. Just wait. It's not about sweets, it's about connection. It's about showing that we're here for each other, through thick and thin. We're not just neighbors, we're a family. The little girl stood at his feet, clutching her bunny. Her frightened expression tugged at his heart. Jake knelt down beside her. Do you remember what we talked about? He asked gently. How we're going to be brave together. She nodded, her small form quaking with uncertainty. That's right, he coaxed, brushing her cheek softly. We have each other. We can be brave even when it's scary. The crowd shifted, faces turning from the opposition back to Jake. He could see fear ebbing away as they took in his words. The energy surrounding them began to echo that spark of community. Let us show them what we stand for. Derek shouted, an undercurrent of power igniting his voice. Let us not back down. Look around. We've come together to protect our homes and to help families in need, starting with Emma S. That S where real change begins. A chorus of murmurs shifted to agreement, hesitant but strengthening. Slowly, people began to rally, more folks stepping forward, blocking the doubt that threatened to break their unity. Together. Jake urged, his chest almost bursting with hope. This is our town. If we can work hand in hand, even in adversity, we can face anything. We will share our joy with those who need it, and nothing will shake that bond. One by one, hands reached to grip one another, a tapestry of unity blossoming despite the disdain brewing at the edges of the square. The little girl smiled, joy glimmering in her eyes now. That flicker of faith kindled into a flame, bright enough to chase away shadows. But as the opposing group approached, Jake felt a ripple of uncertainty burden the air once more. Their leader, a man with a cynical grin, strode confidently forward. You think you can just hold hands and sing songs, change will come flooding in? Jake stepped forward, heart racing. This isn't about singing songs. It's about forging a future. We are stronger together in our struggles, whether small or big, that's what we're trying to prove today. The tension hung, pregnant with doubt. But the words hung in the air like an unbroken thread, linking hearts in the crowd. The little girl stepped forward, unafraid now, her small voice breaking the heavy silence. Mr. Jake believes in all of us. And if we work hard, we can bake the biggest cake ever. And we'll make it for everyone. Laughter bubbled out from the crowd, mixed with words of agreement. The smiles returned. Jake felt a wave of relief wash over him. Yet, the leader of the opposing group frowned, the discomfort creeping into his expression. This isn't going to change one damn thing. You need something real. Jake's breath hung in his throat. Real? He echoed, voice steady. Real is standing by one another. Real is hope in the darkest moments. We may not have riches, but we have heart. And we know what it means to be together. That's how we build real change. And we aren't afraid to start right now. In that moment, he saw the flicker of understanding pierce through the crowd that had been drawn to the skepticism. Eyes began to widen, uncertainty giving way to admiration as silence suspended in the air. The little girl squeezed his hand. We can do it, can't we, Mr. Jake? Yes, he said, fierce and determined, locking eyes with her and those around him. We can do it. Suddenly, Derek stepped beside Jake, nodding firmly. We're building our community here today. This is just the beginning, and it won't stop when the bake sale ends. We're learning to lean on each other beyond the square, breaking through pessimism with every act of kindness. With every voice joining in, the chorus of agreement swelled, shouts of support merging into one resounding anthem. Together. 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 The opposing group halted, shock etched across their faces. Their bravado faltered in the face of the unyielding strength that radiated from the crowd. Some hesitated, others left, as if the warmth of unity pushed them away. For Jake, the storm might still lurk beyond the horizon, but he felt a newfound conviction settle in his heart, a bond made stronger today through vulnerability and courage. They would face any challenge together. As he watched the little girl beam up at him, once more brimming with joy and belief, he knew change was possible. And he would fight tooth and nail, along with this united town, to protect that radiant light they kindled. Hope was not just a word, it was a collective force, one that could stand tall against any storm. This was the moment. And they would chase this promise of community all the way to the dawn. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now because this is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of backing those who stand for hope.